Juggalos in recovery, man.
All right, y'all. My name is D, and I will be running this meeting of Juggalos in Recovery tonight. And we have been trying to get a whole bunch of people that are either members of Juggalos in Recovery or have been through sobriety, or in sobriety and have a journey to share. And I reached out to one of the old homies from when I was first coming into Juggalos in Recovery. That is been a part of us for years, and he has a good story. He's good people, good vibes. He raps, he makes music, he lives life to the fullest, and he's inspirational. And with that, I would like all you guys to meet the homie Exquisite, aka Ty Boogie, and listen to a story. And whenever he gets done, just take turns, raise your hand, unmute your mic, share whatever you want to do, but let him speak uninterrupted. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, D. Uh, appreciate the intro, man. You guys can hear me all right? Cool. All right, sweet. Well, yeah, my name is Ty. Some of y'all may know me as Ty Boogie. Some of you may know me as Exquisite. Uh, Depending on where you know me from, you might know me by something different. That's just kind of that's just kind of how I've always rolled. That was my steez. But it's good to be here tonight. It's been kind of a crazy day. We got hit with a blizzard. I had to, run the store all by myself today. I work at a pet store. I'm a manager, so it was wild and crazy with the blizzard here in the Northeast. So, yeah, let's get into it. My experience, strength, and hope. So, I'm originally from Hartford, Connecticut. I'm 35. My sobriety date is December 25th, 2020. I I consider myself an alcoholic, although drugs are definitely a part of my story. I identify with alcoholism, mostly because alcohol was there first, and life was always kind of revolved around uh, alcohol. So that's where I kind of identified like my lifestyle, and I kind of progressed into other drugs, and still kind of kept that baseline of alcohol the whole way. Another reason why I identify as an alcoholic is because I come from a family of alcoholics. Where I was definitely, as I said, taught and raised around alcohol. My two grandfathers are pillars of the disease of alcoholism. One of them joined the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and has worked that program for most of my life. I've known him in the program. He has relapsed, but he has always still stuck to the program, worked the steps, and all of that. He took me to my first meetings when I was 15. As I said, I'm 35, and I only have 3 years. So that shows you that, I was in and out of the rooms for quite a while. My other grandfather, he took his life from, ultimately gave up his will and, you know, decided that he was going to help the family by taking his own life, which ultimately did not help anything at all. I don't mean to harp and talk about other people. This is my experience, strength, and hope. But I just kind of wanted to leave that there as a kind of a base mark of where I came from and where my upbringing came from. When I was younger, I was very athletic, into sports. I'm still into sports to this day, but I'm not as I'm still pretty athletic. I play flag football. I go to the gym every day. I'm pretty athletic. I just have had a lot of injuries over the years, so I'm not as active as I want to be. But when I was younger, I was always in team sports. I'm the oldest of four boys, so it was always a competitive nature. We always kept things active, no matter what the sport was. We each excelled at different sports, and we all took pride in that. So, me and my brothers. So, really, I would say when my alcoholism or my isms really started to appear was probably when I was about 9 years old. I was hit by a car, put into a coma for about, well, I don't know if it was a coma, but I was knocked out. I have no recollection of that day whatsoever, except for what people have told me. I was unable to do many things. It was 7 days after my birthday. I was born in the summer, so I lost my summer vacation. I wasn't able to play football that upcoming fall. Um, so I started to feel left out. That's when I really started to feel loneliness and really started to feel like I didn't fit in because I couldn't fit in because I physically couldn't do things with other children. I had to be supervised by adults, which is where my, my rejection of authority started. Um, I would say my first drug that really, I don't know if some of you may not really consider it a drug, but I think my first taste of it was lying. When I figured out that I could lie and get away with things. I was really into, like I said, I was athletic, so I was really into sports, and I was really big against all the drugs and cigarettes and stuff like that. And my parents both smoked cigarettes, and I made them promise that they would stop, and they didn't. One day I had found out, I caught them like smoking a cigarette. They were like walking away from the house, and I was about 10 years old, and I decided that I was going to smoke a cigarette. So I smoked a cigarette. So that, rebellious nature started at a very early age. It wasn't before long that, I was starting to dabble into what, my father would always let me taste a beer or something like that. I'd have a sip of a beer with joke or whatever. If I instead of grab my soda, I'd grab a beer and took a sip or whatever. But I remember there were some kids on my football team that I couldn't get along with. We went to school together, and for whatever reason, they just didn't like me. And we got forced to do a school project together, and I was one of these kids was snooping around the house, and he found my parents' liquor cabinet. We were about 12 years old, and that was the first time I ever had my first drink. It was Jack Daniels. I did get sick, although I did keep it from my parents, at least to my knowledge, that I was drinking. So I realized then, after that, those guys became my friends. They became some of my closest friends for a little while, at least for that middle school period of time, until high school when I moved out of the neighborhood. So that was when I realized I could do things and, people would like me. I could go outside my comfort zone and do things out of the ordinary, and people would like me. So that behavior kind of stuck around. I by the time I got to high school, my parents had gone through a divorce. I was the only one who knew about the divorce. From talking to my brothers later in life for a while, I knew my parents were separated and not getting back together, but I think my brothers were under the impression that they were getting back together until they announced their divorce. And during that time, I just kind of rebelled. There was an argument with my parents that I overheard one night, and then the next morning, I came at my mom a certain way, and my dad had gotten upset with me, and ultimately, there was just an incident that occurred, and my parents, my dad was asked not to come home, and I took that as I was to blame for that because of the incident that occurred with me and my dad and my mom asking him to leave. So that's what started it, and that's what kind of always led me to believe that my parents weren't ever getting back together. So by the time they announced their divorce, which was after a couple of years of moving around with just me and my mom and my brothers, my dad was always never far behind, but my parents were really good about being parents. Whether what was ever was going on between their relationship, they were always good parents. They put their children first. As I said, I was rebellious, and I started to act out all the time. We moved to a shady neighborhood where I knew some kids from football that were, they had some troubled past, and, I became a product of the neighborhood. Started to kind of hang out with street gangs, started to sell drugs, started to dabble in different drugs, and, became a part of that. That became my nature. That became my go-to behavior on a regular basis. It got really out of hand. There were a lot of things that went down with other guys on the streets. My family was targeted. There were some break-ins, um, and there were some robberies, and there were some arrests, and that really kind of made a real mess of things for me. Ultimately, after constantly finding, drug paraphernalia and knowing that I was bringing it around all the time, my parents, as I said, they banded together and they took me to court and ultimately gave up custody of me to protect their other children, which I understand now, 20 years later, but I was 15 years old when that happened, and I didn't take it as that when it happened. Um, that's, again, when I first came into the rooms of 12-step, and I first started going to outpatient and such, and I just rebelled, man. I learned that going to outpatient and going into some of these programs, like, all I was really doing was smoking and drinking, but some of these people were smoking crack and doing dope, and they were asking me to, this for them, take their drug test. And because, it was whatever. And I started to kind of make a profit off of that, and, I learned that I could make money still in different ways, and, kind of really got fueled by the idea of making money, but mostly wanted to party. I never was one to, like, make money and have money and get nice things and stuff like that. I would just be the guy to, like, throw a party, just make a bunch of money and throw the biggest party anybody can ever think of. So that's, like, was my go-to all the time. Um, I would throw house parties at my mom's house, even though I wasn't allowed to be there. I know that she would be out with a boyfriend or something, so I would go back to the house and throw parties and have people over there. And, I'd let my brothers do whatever they want. I'd get them food. I'd get them whatever they want, so they would keep their mouths shut. If I pissed them off, they would tell on me. If I kept everything civil, they wouldn't. And, that lifestyle went on for a while until I was about 18. I was in and out of school. I dropped out a couple times as a freshman, as a junior, and then, like, I finally went back and did some independent studies, and they let me finally graduate. So I did graduate, but I graduated late, but that was really the kind of the first time I think I ever, like, really tried to turn my life around. In that period of time during high school, I did get hooked on heroin. I did start doing some of the heroin that I was selling. It was an accident. Somebody thought, like, I just saw people sniffing things, so I thought they were doing coke, and they were actually doing heroin. And so that started about a year and a half long binge of that. I quit that when I was about 17, which is why I have the number 17 tattooed on my wrist. That has nothing to do with being a juggalo or anything. That's all just kind of connected. And I should mention, this is Juggalo Recovery. I'm so used to telling my story in other groups. So I got into them by watching wrestling and everything. So that rebellious behavior kind of reflected myself as a juggalo and such. And but I never really made a big connection with it, which is why I really haven't brought it up yet. Until I'm about 17. I kind of just listened to mostly hip hop music, but, like, I loved ICP for what ICP was. I loved going to ICP shows. I knew a lot of people. My oldest friend who got me into ICP, who I'm still friends with to this day, he'd always, like, make sure to bring me back around when it was time for, a concert or something. So I always had love for this, like, culture and everything. And so we get to about when I'm 17, about to be 18. A couple of my friends, they get an apartment. My best friend, who I just mentioned, my lifelong best friend, he moves away to San Francisco, and I ultimately feel abandoned. So I start selling ecstasy, and that becomes my big thing. And like I said, it was a party house. That's what it was. That's what it was known for. I threw weird, crazy ecstasy parties for years and years and years. I wasn't doing any cocaine or heroin at this time, but I was definitely drinking and doing all the party drugs. I just kind of stepped away from cocaine but I did dabble in painkillers and things like that throughout my 20s. Um, so for about 2 years, I have this ecstasy house that is all funded by selling drugs and all of that stuff. And then that ultimately, I fall for a girl. I try to live with her. That ends up being a nightmare. We were like high school sweethearts at one point. We didn't go to high school together, but we were in high school when we first fell in love, and then we passed on each other eventually, and it ended dramatically. I'm lucky I didn't end up in jail. I got blackout drunk on my surprise birthday party. I wasn't supposed to be smoking weed, but I ended up smoking weed because I was on probation for some arrest or something. She said something about me smoking weed, and I lost my mind. We got into a huge fight. I was blacked out, so I don't know. It's just recollection, and I know that I haven't talked to that girl since that night. And probably in amends that is probably in a living amends that I'm probably going to have to make for the rest of my life just to be a better person. But that's still the cipher with my sponsor. But anyways, so yeah, that ends after 2 years of that ends badly. My best friend moves back from San Francisco. We get an apartment together, and I'm kind of still selling drugs on the side, and then I'm also like working as a parking attendant, and then I end up working this really big concert, and I steal $1,000 from this parking company, and I bail on my roommate, my best friend, and I go to the gathering of the Juggalos for the first time, 2010. I'm 22 years old, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And from that moment, from that year, from 2010 for the next decade, well, for the next 7 years, that's where you find me, is at the gathering of the Juggalos and anything that has to do with Juggalos. So I spend my time on the road, wandering around, dating girls, getting them to license. Never got a license until about a year and a half ago. So I'm using different females, different girlfriends at different times to live with, try to start a music career, and also travel the country, selling drugs, tie-dyes, and toasters that had pot leaves and peace signs and Jesus on it. And I had a good time traveling and all of that and such. I do fall for a girl, and she ends up breaking up with me, right when my grandmother passed, and now I'm starting to really realize that I am an alcoholic. I'm drinking to black out on a regular basis. I'm 29 years old. I'm drinking to black out every single time. The main reason why this girl ends up leaving me is because my grandmother passes away, and I get blackout drunk and decide to take a bottle of sleeping pills, and she finds me passed out against the bathroom door, and she can't wake me up. She eventually wakes me up. I just play it off like it's nothing, and she is kind of just so unaware and so oblivious to this fucking behavior that she doesn't know what to do and kind of just breaks up with me a week later. I then just hit a binge. Decide that I'm going to leave Connecticut and I'm going to move to Philadelphia. I've just started recently telling this to people. I left Connecticut to die. However that was going to be. I was going to, drink and do drugs. I even thought that maybe I'd probably end up on heroin again. After a little while, it didn't take long of living in Philadelphia to realize that, I did not need that. The reason why I ended up moving to Philadelphia was because during this little breakup that I had, all these really dope Juggalo events happened. The Juggalo March occurred. Wizard of the Hood happened, and my best friend who got me into ICP, he goes to his first gathering, and we have a beautiful family moment with with each other and with our homies that we all have and everything. And the Juggalo March happened. And then ICP, I think they're doing the Malenko tour. And I decided that I was going to, like, just follow, like, that tour. So I followed it from, like, I think from Philly. And there were 3 homies of mine that I have known from the gathering over the years. They had a spot open up in their place. And I made the move. Yeah, I made the move. I'm about to be 30 years old. I'm like freaking out. You know, I love being around Juggalos, and like the fact that this is the first time ever that I'm like had this opportunity to leave the state of Connecticut and find something, and like it's price worthy, and it's like, oh my God, like let me just grind these next few months, and then I'm gonna go to Philly, and like, you know, and like I said, I left to die. I wasn't planning on being in Philly long. I really wasn't. I was just going to be there for whatever time. But when I got there, these people were a little more serious than I really realized. And, you know, they had me sign a lease, which is the first time I ever signed a lease. This is the first time I'm actually now responsible for all of this stuff. And it's like, holy shit, I just packed up my life from one place and moved to a completely different place. And, like, now I got to survive. And I didn't even think about doing drugs. And, like, drinking was really kind of far from it. And I didn't even realize it. You know, I still had my, like, little routine, but I wasn't always out there trying to get, I wasn't spending the nights at the bars because I didn't know any bars to go to. You know, I was worried about finding a job. I would still wake up and drink my, you know, my whatever it was, and then I would still end the night, you know, whatever, and, like, whatever. But it wasn't trying to throw a party. It wasn't trying to have a party. It was trying to, like, find a job and, like, grow up, you know. And I find this job, and then, like, you know, all these really cool things start happening because I'm living with Juggalos. You know, I'm living in Philly. Some of you who are familiar with the scene know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Scrub crew, the Scrubs. You know, and those guys, they showed me that I didn't need to be the life of the party, that I could just be who I was, which was just Ty. You know, I could just be Ty. And I didn't have to be this extravagant person who was holding his life together and, you know, and so other people who didn't care about his life. It wasn't like I was trying to hold my life together. We just didn't care about his life. It was just caring for me about having a party and making sure everybody else had a good time. And that kind of just stopped when I moved to Philly and met true people who showed me the life of the community. And like I said, I had always listened to ICP. I just had never really adapted the whole culture, you know? So I go to a couple more gatherings, and, you know, I've been to, like, I think 11 or 12 gatherings at this point in my life, and the pandemic happens, and, like, bam, I'm, like, right back at it, y'all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm drinking, and, like, I pop some fucking, you know, some fucking Percocets, and, like, you know, I'm like, you know, the guy who gets it to me tells me, like, I don't really want to give it to you because I don't want, like, you've asked me, like, 3 days in a row, and now it's starting to kind of become a habit. And it was like, damn, there's that moment right there where it's like, oh, shit, this is, like, becoming a problem again. This is, like, how it was back in Connecticut. And it was like, you already decided that you didn't want to die, that you're going to make this change, that you're going to roll with this. So I go back. You know, during the pandemic, I know that there's a huge storm that's about to take place. It's ironic that there's a huge storm that just took place, and I'm telling this story. So there's a huge storm that takes place in Connecticut, and I go back, and I shovel. I'm just trying to make some money because of the pandemic, and I'm trying to get out of the house because of the pandemic, and it's the pandemic, and so I do some shoveling, and, like, I make some cash. I do some, like, odd jobs for some homies around the area, make some money. My whole time I plan is to come back and just find another bartending job in the city, you know. And I go sledding with my niece, and I dislocate my shoulder. I spend the next week drinking instead of going to the doctor's office. And I wake up on Christmas morning, and my niece, who's 3 years old at the time, is excited that her Uncle Boogie is there for Christmas, and Santa came, and, you know, and all of this and all of that. And, you know, so I often tell people that she's my unofficial sponsor because like that little girl like made me not want to have a drink that day, you know. And the next day after Christmas, the first day I went without a drink, and I don't know how long it was, probably almost 20 years, at least 10 years. And I had gone a whole day without a drink. I get a phone call from an old friend that I used to use with that I had started doing heroin with. Um, he's in town. He needs some work, help with some work and everything. And I go with him, and he's listening to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And and then he gives me some work for the next few weeks, and we talk about some things. And he offers me a job, and he's got a place to stay. I just have to move back to Philadelphia. So I go a whole month without a drink, and I go back to Philadelphia, and I ultimately pack my bags and come back to Connecticut, and I start working the program, and I started working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I use this old friend. He's my sponsor then. He's my sponsor now, and things that I never did. The words that really stood out were, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path." And I never thoroughly did anything except throw a party or tip back a bottle or put a drug in my system. I never thoroughly did anything in my life. So I just started to do things that people told me to do. I started sweeping the floors. I started making coffee. I started reading. I started sharing. I started doing whatever I could. I started giving guys a ride to meetings. I started talking in sober livings. I started doing everything I could. Anything that was suggested upon me by another person who had more time than me, I did it. And in that time, I have found my own things that work. I wake up every morning and I write a gratitude list. Some of you who are in this meeting receive that gratitude list on a daily basis. No matter what, I make sure that I do that inventory in the morning to make sure that I wake up and I'm on point, that I know where the hell I'm at. I know what I'm grateful for because I woke up many mornings wanting to die, wanting to kill myself, wanting this all to be over with, wanting this all to be done with, never wanting to do it again, never wanting nobody to fucking find me, never wanting anybody to fucking help me, nothing. And I just kept doing it and plugging away, and times got hairy, but I just checked myself. I started to that last summer, I started to kind of shave off on some meetings and everything, and I decided during the fall I'm doing another 90 and 90, and I did it. I picked up another commitment, and I've just found another group of sober men to talk to, and, I ran into an old friend's mom who goes to meetings, and he passed away from a drug overdose just a year and a half ago, so finding her inside the room has been really helpful, and just like the connections that I have made over and over and over again, I stumbled into the tent 8 months sober, my first gathering after a few years, and I stumbled across my man Chris. I had been trying to get in touch with Frank forever. I had texted him, and I wasn't really good with social media, so I think I made so many different accounts to get in touch with Frank because I knew he was the guy to get in touch with, and he wasn't going to make it. And he just told me to go to the tent, just go to the tent. And I was so scared to go to the tent. I was scared to be at the gathering sober. And then I was there, and I came across Chris, and he needed some help with some things, and we ended up running a meeting, and he asked me to help him try to form the next year's meeting, and we plugged away for a year trying to set up online meetings, trying to do what we could to push things on the internet. Again, I'm not very tech savvy and whatever, and after some time, it was aware that this was going in a direction that I didn't know how I could really help besides just stepping in and showing up with meetings. And so I kind of stepped away from helping with the service, but to see where it is now, to see where the recovery is at now, is just so fulfilling. And it's just so remarkable to see the amount of people that show up to meetings now, the amount of people that know about it, the shout outs from the people that started the move.
You glitched, Ty. You glitched.
Pause for the glitch. Yo, you still there, Ty? All right. Well, I think Ty was wrapping up and Ty glitched out. Ty, if you want to exit and rejoin something, I don't know, before I open it up. Everybody can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So Ty glitched out. Oh, yeah, you glitched out right at the end when you were expressing your gratitude.
Out right at the end when you're expressing your gratitude.
Yeah, I don't know where I fell off, but I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that you asked me to be here. I'm grateful to see where this has come. You know, Juggalos in recovery is just it's a snowball effect. It's just rolling, and I knew that it would be from the get go. Like I said, I stumbled into that 8 months sober and didn't know what to expect, and it became my greatest service commitment I ever made. And it's just I'm so grateful that I was, to be able to just be a part of it at all and just to be connected to so many of you guys and to see so many faces show up here tonight, to hear me speak. I hope somebody got something out of it. I hope it was what you wanted today, D. And I'm going to pass it. I want to hear some of you guys talk. I love you guys. Thank you.
All right. Before I open it to everybody, I just want to give a shout out. I'm echoing here. Okay, just want to give a shout. Am I better now? Is it clear? I just want to give out a shout out to Ty because so I kept asking for online meetings because I seen posts for online meetings. And next thing you know, Chris and Ty were running online meetings and Frank, and that's how I kind of got involved. And I didn't have to stumble into a tent with multiple years sober at the gathering. It was already there, and I got to start helping out. Just showing up to the online meetings and getting to meet Ty, and then Ty let me camp with him my first gathering. And I've never heard your story in full. Besides me being a dirtbag convict that breaks out in handcuffs, our stories are very similar from around the age of getting into ICP to becoming all about the lifestyle to the drinking, the drugs to fuck. I did heroin for over a year and didn't even know I was doing heroin because I was such a dumb addict. I was like, oh, this is black tar opium. This is straight from the plant. You know what I mean? But to quit doing that because all my friends dying from overdoses and strung out on pills and the needle to becoming the severe alcoholic to always middlemaning and hustling a bunch of drugs to be the life of the party and throw crazy parties where I never really made a ton of money off of it, but I had plenty and I threw fucking ragers to being the outcast and ostracized by everybody because of how bad my addictions and drinking and drugging was, you know what I mean? To finding true friends in recovery, putting in the work, finding juggalos that are in recovery that overcome the same thing, to be involved in something like this and given the opportunity to see it spawn and grow and meet all these dope people, new and old, that are in the room. And with that, I am gonna just say, raise your hand, be respectful, pass it on, and take turns talking. You can unmute yourself and share. Share meeting.
Tomorrow I'm celebrating 28 months. Can y'all hear me?
Hell yeah,
We
man.
hear you, Taz.
Congratulations.
We hear you, Taz. Whoop.
Whoop.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
28 months. It's a blessing, man.
Crushing, man.
Taylor, will you roll me a cigarette, bro?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for the story. I really enjoy story meetings. It doesn't matter who you are, what color, size, where you came from. All the stories are just, there's always something in there that's very, relatable to everybody's story, and everybody's bottom's different, and how you get sober is different. And I really appreciate these meetings a lot. And to anybody who hasn't been to a gathering and is worried about it, because you're trying to stay sober or whatever, all I could say is, like, now's the time. There's not only Juggalos in recovery, there's open-hearted Juggalos in recovery. There's all sorts of different tents that are there for support. You're not alone. So if you go there and you are tempted and whatnot, there's always help. There's always somewhere to go. There's homies there that are trying to stay sober. I didn't go for years because I was like, well, it's just a place to get fucked up and to party and to, and I wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to raise my family and trying to do this and that. And, so, all I can, I'm glad I went. My son was old enough to say, hey, I want to go to a fucking gathering. Let's go. And I was worried, and I found Juggalos in recovery and went there, and, 3 gatherings later or whatever, I'm still sober going to it, and I'm looking forward to it this year. So, thanks for the story. I really appreciate it.
Go ahead, Sasha.
I just want to say, for one, I'm proud of you. You kicked fucking ass. And I do really relate on pandemic being a big contributor to addiction, because I really fell way out of control once the pandemic hit. But I just relate to that definitely, and I'm just proud of you, man. Good fucking job.
You can go ahead, Ashley.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I just want to say thank you. Still sick and suffering, but I came across this page like a week ago, and it came up on my phone. So I appreciate your story. I can relate to a lot. Thanks.
Oh yeah, thanks for joining us, Ashley. Welcome home, Enzo.
What up, Ty? It's Enzo. It's nice to actually put a face to the name. This mystery homie who I just see in the group chat all the time, dropping all these amazing fucking gratitudes on the fucking daily. On the daily. That's the highlight of my day is seeing that shit. It's nice to meet you, man. Thank you for sharing your story. Much love. Look forward to seeing you again. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, I had to quit keeping that little daily gym coveted to myself when I'm having shit times, even though I don't respond to it a lot. So there you go. He's an OG. Frank, sober, the man, the legend, the myth. If you haven't met the guy who started Juggalos in Recovery, here he is. 2014, and almost a decade later, it's still going and growing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna have to pick up my 3-year tag at the gathering, y'all.
I got you. A lot of you don't know where I am right now, but I want you all to know that if it wasn't for Juggalos and recovery, I probably would have already lost my mind over here. I am deployed. It is rough. I just want you all to know that I appreciate y'all. And Ty, I'm very happy to see you back in these rooms. I love you all.
We all love you, Frank. Thanks for giving us a home. Juggalo Jake.
What you mean you got deployed?
He's overseas. You don't want to know about it. It's gruesome. Juggalo Jake, you can unmute and talk. Go ahead. Let's see your hand raised. Click the microphone button, Jake. We can't hear you. There's a microphone button down at the bottom.
Oh shit! There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Juggalo Jake. I'm a stand-up comedian and a filmmaker out here in Seattle. This is my first day at the Juggalo recovery meeting or any meeting like this. I've quit smoking cigarettes for about 7 years now. I quit drinking about a year ago, and yeah, 1 year and over a month now. I never really got into like super extremely hard, dangerous drugs like heroin, crack, and meth, but I was pretty bad alcoholic for about I want to say 6 years, and it changed me. It really changed me as a person, and not for the better. I was really kind and well-intentioned person back then, and I guess 6 years of alcohol kind of just turned me into like a really angry and bitter person, and really fucked with my mindset. And I didn't quit alcohol by choice. My body actually forced me to quit, because last year I was going through these absolutely horrible stomach pains that would last for 8 to 10 hours. And it was so painful to the point where I was like constantly screaming and shouting and just kicking and rolling around, wanting to die. And that lasted for a whole week. And so, like I said, my body forced me to quit drinking, and I could have gone back to drinking any time. I could have gone back to drinking any time after I recovered from those stomach pains, but I chose not to. And I think the reason why I chose not to is because I realized just how hard, like, I just fell from grace as a person. I ended up, during those years, I wasn't entirely nice to people, especially my roommate, which I feel terrible about because I've known her for about 10 years, and out of majority of people I've known in my life, she's never done me any wrong. So the fact that, I was pretty shitty to her during those years, someone who never really did me any wrong, just absolutely wasn't okay whatsoever. And oh, Nate lives in Bellingham. All right, hell yeah, Nate. Anyways, so that's alcohol. As far as cocaine goes, yeah, I won't say I had a hardcore addiction to that, but I was definitely using a lot. I would go to a bar close to my house where I knew a lot of people were also alcoholics like me. And half the time when the bars would close, we would go to someone's house and just fucking do blow and do cocaine all night. And it wasn't until the gathering last year when I quit doing cocaine. And the reason why I quit doing cocaine is because two reasons. One, I think I did a bump that had fentanyl in it. I think. And the reason why I said that is because this bump I did it didn't fucking feel right. Like, I've never done a bump that it just made my body feel so fucking weird and anxious. And it just didn't feel right. Number two, that night that I did that bump, I witnessed a Juggalo actually overdose on cocaine right in front of me. He did a line, and within seconds, he just hit the pavement like that. He was shaking. It looked like he was having this. I'm sure it wasn't a seizure, but it looked like he was having one. And these Juggalos were running up to him with these Narcans, trying to help him out. They picked him up. I think they got him to the medical tent. And the next day, when I asked if that Juggalo turned out to be okay, they said no, he died. He passed away. I realized that could have been me. That could have been me. that line I did that morning, that straight up could have been me. I was speaking about my homie, and he really just was like, he was like, I don't want you to do this anymore. Like, I know that I'm not your mom, and you know, I can't tell you what to do and what not to do. I can't tell you how many cookies you can and can't have. But it's just like, I don't want you to do this anymore because I don't want to wake up and hear about you dying on cocaine. And I really took that into hardcore consideration. And so I haven't done it since. That doesn't mean I'm entirely drug free, though. This does mean I'm entirely drug free. Will still do acid and shrooms and Molly. I, for the longest time, smoked weed every day, and I understand, like, weed's not that dangerous. The worst that weed does is just make you fucking lazy. But that's why I had to stop smoking weed every day. It's because, like I said, I'm a comedian and a filmmaker, and I have all these ambitions and these film projects I want to make, and just smoking all the goddamn time sitting on the couch. Like, I'm not going to be able to achieve my goals if I do that. So this year, I stopped smoking every day, and it's been about, I want to say, 6 or 7 days since I last smoked. And the first few days were really difficult because I was dealing with some hardcore insomnia. The first day, I was up for 30 hours. And the second day, I was up for 40 hours. And then the third day, I was up for 48 hours. And I was losing my fucking mind, just mood swinging all over the place, back and forth. And I'm not dealing with that insomnia anymore. But yeah, so I'm done with alcohol. I'm done with cocaine. And I'm not entirely done smoking weed, but I'm just taking a break because I don't want to do it every day anymore. But that's what I got to say. I can from what I've heard, Ty's story is a lot deeper than mine, and I guess listening to some stories here kind of makes me realize that people's addictions addictions could have been worse, is from what I'm hearing from these stories. So yeah, thanks Ty for telling us that story. I really appreciate it, and thanks for letting me speak and be on here.
Appreciate you, Juggalo Jake. Welcome. And yeah, we were at the gathering last year. We were running around with Narcan. So was the Wicked Clowns Harm Reduction. They were passing out a bunch of shit. There's a lot of crazy shit that went on at the gathering last year. Fentanyl is not no joke, and it's not just fentanyl. It's xylazine that's mixed in with it, and if you OD, you might not come back. So you never know what you're getting. Even in Florida, they put it in weed, and we've had people overdose from smoking weed. So just be very careful. Test your shit if you do shit. Everybody's road to recovery is different. Everybody struggles with different things and finds their bottoms and overcomes those things. That's part of what we do here, whether it's mental health, addiction, whatever your thing is that's destroying your life, and you overcome it. That's what we like to see. And Sober had his hand raised, so I think he's ready to shoot a shot again. And welcome all the new people, first timers. I do see you in the room, and if you want to talk, raise your hand.
I wanted to let you know, Juggalo Jake, that over 10 years ago, I quit drinking. I've never done any hard drugs. I've smoked weed a couple times. That's it. I only drank for 6 years. It's those, if you compare, when I first got in, I compared my story to everybody else's. And I heard all these horrible, drastic, just been put through the ringer worse than I ever could have thought. I was like, my story's not that bad. Do I even belong here? And the reality is, and this is why I started Juggalos in Recovery is it's not about what your story is. It's about your journey out of addiction. It's how you're going to improve your life. How are you going to heal from the shit that caused you to have your addiction? You can talk to anyone in here, Taz, Brian, Ty, Enzo. I've seen Ashley around a couple times. That's what I push. Your story is your own story, and piggybacking off of what Chris is in here, Josie's in here. That's what I push. That's why I created Juggalos in Recovery, for everyone to have a safe space. Everyone's life is different. I had a guy come up to me a couple gatherings ago and tell me he had 28 years off of heroin, but he still drinks a beer once in a while. Well, that's fucking amazing. 28 years off of heroin? Hell yeah. But if he was to walk into NA or AA or any other organized group, he's going to get shit on because he still drinks. I don't give a shit if you drink. Just have the respect for the other people around you. Be a good person. That's all we ask here. I'm very happy to walk into a room and see so many people in the Juggalos in Recovery meeting. I think the last time I came into a meeting, we had, 3 or 4 people? It was the norm. Me, D, Chris, Enzo, Monster, Josie. Like 3 to 6 of us. Crazy Dave shows up every once in a while. For all the first timers, Juggalos in Recovery is going through a reorganization process right now. The website just got redone. We're adding more stuff to it. There's going to be videos on there. We've got our Sober Ninja network on Spotify now for all the podcasts, meetings, all the stuff's going to go on there. We have my YouTube channel, Sober the Juggalo, and then the JIR podcast channel, where all the meetings are posted. Eventually on the website, we'll have a page to all the other resources that we can come up with. My goal is to have it state specific, to where whether you click on a map, your state, and you go to that, it's going to be a whole process. But there's a lot more coming this year. This last year was crazy for just about every one of us. I'm going through a divorce. I'm deployed, and Taz, I'll talk to you about that offline. I can't talk about it online. But this year's been crazy for me. I've been going through a lot of shit. I really am grateful for the community that we've built here. This isn't just me. Honestly, I didn't even come up with the idea. I was talking to a guy in one of the Facebook chat rooms a long ass time ago, and he came up with the idea on one of my videos I posted on my YouTube. I shouted him out. He told me to run with it. It started as a Facebook group, and it's turned into this. And I'm extremely grateful. I'm very proud. We have a great team. We have a great community. It is just for me to stand back and look at what y'all have created. It makes me happy. And I really appreciate that.
All right, I'm going to end all the lives real quick, but we'll still be open.